Good afternoon and welcome gallery members and viewers. We will call I call the meeting to order at 1:03 p.m. for the February 27th, 2022 regular council meeting. At this time, I would like to ask council if they have any added items to the agenda. Seeing none, and for the record, Councillor Walsh will not be attending today. Seeing no added items, and I would then ask for adoption of the agenda as presented, and Deputy Mayor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I'd make the motion that we adopt the regular council meeting agenda for Monday, February 27th, 2023 at 1 p.m.
Thank you. I will then call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item C on our agenda is proclamation and announcements. We will have none today, and we will go to item 2A, regular council meeting minutes for February 13th, please. Who would be able to adopt those? Yes, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the minutes from the February 13th, 2023 regular council meeting be adopted as presented.
Does council have any questions, errors, or omissions? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. No business. I will ask then, is there business arising from the minutes? Item 3. Seeing none, we will go right into our public hearings on page 9 of your agenda, please. I will start with the public hearing, and consideration will then be given for second and third reading. I will speak to the pecuniary interest for municipal councillors. Section 172 of the Municipal Government Act does state that you may not take part in the discussion or decision-making on any matter in which you may have pecuniary interest. The legislation attempts to ensure that you are not discriminated either for or against by virtue of your membership on council. If you have a pecuniary interest, you are to disclose that you have an interest and its general nature. You are to abstain from any discussion of the matter and from voting. You are to leave the room until the matter has been dealt with, and you should make sure that your abstention is recorded in the minutes. You are not to be discriminated against and entitled to participate in the public hearing as a member of the public. I declare the public hearing for Bylaw 2023-03 amendment to the Land Use Bylaw open at 1:06 p.m. At this time, I would ask the Development Officer to explain the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw. And I believe that we have Sarmad to speak from Parkland Planning.
Start from the top. Thank you, Mayor Dahl. The town has received an application to change the designation of 2 lots located on 4218 46th Avenue. These lots are located in the northeast industrial area, and the proposed bylaw sees the redesignation from light industrial district to the direct control 7 land use district. This DC7 district is specific to marijuana. This DC7 district is specific to marijuana facility use and development. The applicant is Seep Cannabis. They're interested in leasing 2 lots on the subject property to operate a cannabis production and distribution use. Rezoning to DC7 is required for the town to accept a development permit application to operate a cannabis production and distribution facility. It is worthy to note that council is the development authority for all DC7 development permit applications. The proposed facility will create cannabis products such as infused oils and treats for recreational use. There will be no growing operations out of this facility, as marijuana will be delivered to the site and processed into goods. The finished products will be sold in bulk to licensed handlers and agencies such as the provincial government. Goods will not be sold to individual customers for personal use. There will be no heavy machinery on site to create noise concerns, and filters will be installed in the ventilation system to eliminate odors. The Town of Olds MDP identifies the parcels for industrial use. Parcels to the north and west are currently designated Light Industrial District. Parcels located to the south are designated Industrial Business District. And located east across Highway 2A are urban reserve lands, and located further to the west is the Canadian Pacific Railway, which is followed by country residential parcels. The public hearing was advertised in accordance with the MGA Section 606. The proposed bylaw was also circulated to referral agencies and adjacent landowners and the internal departments for comment. To date, no comments have been received from the general public or adjacent landowners regarding the proposed bylaw. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you very much. I'll move forward then to explain the procedure, as there may be a speaker in the gallery. Presentations before council shall be brief and to the point, limited to 5 minutes. Council shall not allow cross-examination of persons giving information, and it will not be necessary for the persons giving information to verify his or her qualifications. Council may ask questions of the speaker after each presentation for clarification purposes. There will be no debating or questions from the floor that will be allowed. No written or verbal submissions will be received by council after this public hearing is closed. And persons addressing council will state their name and address, indicate if you are speaking on your own behalf for a client, company, or citizens group. I will now call for the first time for those in support. If you would like to speak in support, please come to the podium. We'll get you to state your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Tier Thompson, and my address is number 6, 5800 46th Street, and that's in Olds, Alberta. Do you need the postal code as well? No? Okay. So I'm the owner of Seep Cannabis. I proposed this amendment, so I just wanted to let you guys know that I hope this passes. I have dreamed a long time about starting a cannabis company. I went to school in the United States where it's still federally illegal. So I'm really happy to be a Canadian citizen and be able to pursue this opportunity in my home country. And yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that. Thank you, Council.
We thank you for your attendance as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll call for a second time. Is there any others in support that would like to speak? Very good. We will move down then to the first time for those opposed. Anyone opposed? Second call. Seeing none, I would ask if there's any persons being deemed affected by this bylaw. Seeing none, I'll open the floor to council for comments. If there's any comments or questions from council. Okay, we'll start with Councillor Blatz and then we'll go to Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, through you to our development officer. Just for clarity's sake, although I realize it states in here that this will not have any retail sales whatsoever within it, is that stated within the development permit itself, that there will be no retail sales with this application? Can I ask that question, or is...
Would you like to answer that, Sarman? Thank you.
You can add that as a condition of the development permit application. That's why it's worthy to note that council is the development authority, so you will have the authority to have certain conditions such as the business hours, when they can operate, and the question that you asked as well too, because it's that's what they noted for us too, and that's what we submitted to the Alberta Transportation, which is why part of the reason why they didn't have any objection is because if you had retailers coming in, it would have a lot more traffic into that area, which may not be able to be accommodated, but they did note that there's going to be no type of retail investment or retail customers coming in, so no.
Supplementary, Councillor Blatz?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dolan, through you to Sir Matt. So is it recommended that we include it, make the recommendation to include it in the development permit, or would it be standalone? I mean, the young gentleman is here, and he does recognize that this is one of the stipulations per se, but I'm just wondering, to be clear and concise with our development permit, if that would be the recommended avenue to make sure that that is included, that point.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend that, and alongside all of the other business hours and as well too, I would recommend those, as it was in the spirit of the amendment that we did include that as well, so yes.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Blas. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to the planner. I know in the proposal, it mentions lot 23 and 24 is where the business is going to be located in. In your map, you have highlighted the whole building, and so I'm just wondering, is it the whole building we're looking at, or is it a section of the building?
Thank you for asking that. If you may look on page 12, you may see that it's 2 lots rather than the whole building. And in that, yes, it's just going to be a section. It's not the whole building itself. Or, let me find this here.
I find that, I'm just finding it hard to see that on the
Oh.
picture. That's
My apologies. Let me correct that. That would be the whole building, yes.
yeah, the whole
Yeah.
building, yeah.
And in that whole building, there are certain uses in there. If you may look into what is allowed in that DC7 district, it is marijuana use, and then it says, and discretionary, all other uses that are deemed permissible or deemed appropriate for that area. And currently in that building, everything that we deem in there falls under the definition of DC7.
Supplemental.
So then, you're saying everything that's in that building presently falls under DC7?
Correct, yes.
Okay, because my question was, if we're looking at the whole building of changing its designation, how would that affect the other businesses that are in that building? But I think you just answered my question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. And we'll go over to Councillor Ryan, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Through you to our developer officer. Could you tell me, was there any conversation with regards to the waste that would come out of this building and how it would be handled? I know that there's stipulations over at the Sundial facility, so I'm just wondering about odors with regards to the waste. You've talked about it with regards to filters in the building, but I'm concerned about the waste pickup.
No, thank you for that question. There were no questions, or there wasn't no conversations regarding the waste pickup or storage. But once again, that could definitely be addressed in the development permit stage and looked at in more in depth.
Okay, thank you. I hope it would get addressed at that point.
Okay.
Go ahead. Oh, we've got 2 more, so go. Councillor Cummings and then Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a point of clarification, I guess, with any sort of marijuana facility that's opened up in the province of Alberta, they have to be licensed. Just an issue with or a question with the waste recycling and stuff like that, and the air filtration, is that not all provincially regulated through the licensing process? Or is that something that we would, I just want to clarify, is it something that we need to deal with in the development permit? Or is that something that the licensing permit would process through the cannabis licensing process the province has?
In regards to, yes, they will need to get licensing, but whether odors and waste is dealt in that license process, I will have to clarify and get back to you on that, but I have no comment as of this moment.
You look like you have before I go to Deputy Mayor Wilson, do you have a comment?
Yeah, am I allowed to speak to that?
Certainly are. Please come and explain that to my council.
Oh, it's on. Okay, so as part of the Health Canada licensing process, we do have to go through its proper air filtration, lighting, air quality systems, basically. because the facility does need to keep odors within our boundaries, right? Because we do have neighbors. So what we're doing for that is we're equipping air filters on our air filtration system to filter out the smells of cannabis. As far as waste goes, it's just plant waste. So we actually use, I would say, like 95% of what comes into our store in products. So there's not really a lot of waste. But it can be discarded just in like a green bin because it's just, it's an organic material. So, and then as far as like further licensing, everything is covered by Health Canada. Everything is under our microprocessing license, which we're in the process of getting right now. And just through conversations with other people in the cannabis industry, it can take over a year. And we just started that process in November of 2022. So we're still looking at potentially at least maybe half a year until we get our license. But that is normal in the cannabis industry. So
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing that. I'll go to Deputy Wilson and then back to Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just have a couple of questions, if I may. One, Tier, if you could help me understand. So within this building, should all these changes go through, will SEEP be the only tenant, or there will be other tenants sharing this facility?
there would be other tenants, I believe. I'm not the owner of the building, so I'm not in charge of those decisions. I just rent a suite right now. And in concert with the owner of the property, we're putting through this bylaw application. So.
Supplemental, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, and thanks, Chair, for that explanation. My other question would be, certainly there would have to be, you've talked about some renovations that would have to take place, HVAC and filtering and so on. Also thinking and wondering about security, because you've indicated, or the application indicates, it won't be a growing operation, plants and so on will come in. So obviously, if this goes down the line, renovation work around secured storage and access and everything would be part of a development permit and any renovations taking place?
I would assume so. So we have a physical security system in place already. So we use Ring alarm systems. So it's just like an online-based alarm system that hooks up to the internet. So we do have a physical alarm system in place already. As far as like a security guard or like something like that, we don't have any plans for anything like that. We do have people in the facility on weekdays most of the time, so like there are people there, but we do have a security system, so if there is anything like anyone trying to break in or anything like that, and also logs to like keep track of what we're producing and how much of it we're producing and what's going into it. So we do have logs and a security system to keep track of all of that stuff because it is a controlled substance.
Thank you.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. I just wanted to go back to the waste question, and that is, I understand that it would be plant-based, but my concern is that I know in the past when we've heard about some of the odor that was created over at Sundial, a lot of it had to do with waste that they were generating, and that was plant-based as well. So my concern would be, yes, it is plant-based, but it does have an odor to it, and that you'll need to address that, and I think it's, I would like to see that addressed within the development permit, as well as Councillor Blatt's concern with regards to the sale of the items. I do think that it needs to be contained, any kind of smell that would come out of, even in putting it in the green bin, if it's a regular green bin and if it's not being picked up on a regular basis, or if it's just outside of a weekly rotation or something like that, it could, in the dead of summertime, create an odor. So you might want to make sure that it's got a proper bin in place for that. And I don't know, with regards to Councillor Cummings' comment with regards to the licensing, whether that would be part of your licensing, but certainly it would be something that I'd like to see addressed. Okay.
Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Mayor. The question for the development officer. So today, we're looking at a land use bylaw amendment. in the future, as you've mentioned, we'll be looking at the development permit. So we'll have another opportunity to discuss the development permit and authorize that through this council as the authority for that. So I just wanted to make sure we're not talking, because I'm getting confused. We're a lot of talk about the development permits happening here today, but we're not discussing the development permit today, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about that down the road and in the future. Today, we're just talking about adjusting the land use bylaw to allow for a development permit for marijuana use to go into the space. Perfect, I understand now, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to point. Very good. Then that should be the end of our questions to this point, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would then ask once more, Sarmed, if you have any further comments to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to know one thing before I conclude, is that this parcel is located in the northeast of Olds, and this is surrounded by industrial district and in parcels, industrial to the west and then industrial business to the south. And personally, for a use like this, even in regards to wastage, I think it's a very ideal location for a use such as this. It's very tucked away, and a lot of the concerns that may have been noted if this was proposed in a residential area or even nearby, it would be a lot more, worthy of scrutiny. Not to say that it isn't right now, but I would definitely say that this isn't the most ideal location that I would recommend a use could like this could be located.
Thank you. There is silage in the area there too, so you're right, there's farmland there, but good questions from all. Very good. That's your closing? All right, there's nothing further. One more, Deputy Mayor, I'll go backtrack then for you.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just had one quick question for Tier, just more of my personal curiosity. Just what would be the projected employment impact from your operation? How many people?
Well, it depends on how.
I believe that's concluded our questions. Thank you very much, and thank you for your time. I declare the public hearing closed at 1:26 p.m. Thank you. Ask council then to please go back to page 9 of your agenda, and I'm asking for second reading, please. We'll start with Councillor Ryan and then Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 2023-03.
Thank you. At this time, I'll call for the vote from council. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. And Deputy Mayor Wilson, please, third and final reading.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would move that council gives a third reading to bylaw number 2023-03.
Once again, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, you're welcome to stay, but we have but thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Good luck and all the best. All right, page 19 now. We are looking at another public hearing that we'll be doing. This received first reading on January 23rd, 2023. And this is for a land use bylaw amendment for administrative changes. So we'll start with the public hearing. I believe we still have to go through the process, but I will ask a question. So I call the public hearing open for bylaw 2023-04, no, that's the wrong one. 04, thank you, at 1:27 p.m. I would like to ask at this point, though, do we have anybody in the gallery here to speak or represent this bylaw? Seeing none, I will not have to go through the process of the public hearing, but other than ask my council if they have any comments to this bylaw for administrative changes. Very good. Hearing none then, I declare the public hearing closed at 1:28 PM. And we'll go back now to the actual bylaw on page 19, and I would ask for second reading for 2023-04. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 2023-04.
I will ask council this time for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. And third and final reading, please. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw number 2023-04.
Once again, I call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Very good. We will now proceed to page 49 of your agenda for bylaw 2023-07. No. Page 49, my error, page 49. And this bylaw is 2023-07, also an amendment to the land use bylaw. We're looking for first reading and setting a public hearing date. So first reading, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 2023-07.
I would ask council for a vote at this time. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. And now a public hearing date, please. Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council sets Monday, excuse me, March 27th, 2023 at 1 PM in council chambers as the date, time, and place for a public hearing on bylaw number 2023-07.
Very good. We've confirmed, I've actually looked at the date, and it's good for council schedule, and we'll set that date by vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We have no delegations and presentations for item 5, and item 6 is bylaws. I believe we have no bylaws. We will now look at new business on page 53 of your agenda, and this is 7A donation request from the Olds, for the Olds College Ag Smart. Would you like to speak to this, Mr. C.A. Williams?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. This is a request for donation under policy 803C. It's for the amount of $1,500 for the Ag Smart event held at Olds College in early August. Up until 2022, the donation was for $1,000. Council approved a $1,500 increase last year, and we have budgeted as such for 2023. So the recommendation is to approve the sponsorship for $1,500.
Thank you. So I'm hearing you say that it is in the allocated budget then. We'll start with, go ahead and put it on the floor. Start with Councillor Ryan.
Yes, I would move a motion that the sponsorship of $1,500 for Olds College Ag Smart held August 1st to 2nd, 2023 be approved.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Councillor Daly.
I noticed in the letter from the college that they're also asking for the use of the community's trailer. Is there going to be human resources that are going to have to be assigned to that as well?
Good question. And that request we actually had to turn down. That trailer is funded through FCSS dollars, and this is not an eligible FCSS event or program. So unfortunately, it kind of falls through the cracks for that. So the trailer use will be declined, but the donation will proceed based on council direction.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Daly, for bringing that to our attention, and C.O. Williams for the answer. We have a motion on the floor. We're ready to call the vote then? Nothing supplementary? Okay, those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Page 55 of your agenda now, please. Mountain View Power Prudential, and I believe Ms. C.O. Williams, that Director.
Yes, Director Lindeman will introduce this one to us.
Thank you. Today, administration is looking to council to consider amending the promissory note that is currently between Olds Fiber and the town of Olds. The first motion you'll see on the screen is to reduce the promissory note by the amount that was originally included in it for the value of Mountain View Power. As council knows, in October of 2022, OFL assigned the interest in the energy marketing agreement, or what is known as Mountain View Power, to the town of Olds. So we're just asking today to remove that value from the promissory note. The second motion is to increase the promissory note by the final restructuring costs that were incurred in association with the creation of the MCC. And I would just leave it there for questions.
Well, thank you. We'll start with the recommendation for council, that council directs administration to reduce the principal amount, and we'll start with Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Well, I was just going to make the motion.
That's fine. I'd like to get that on the
All
floor.
right. Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council directs administration to reduce the principal amount outstanding on the Olds Fiber Limited promissory note by $200,000 for the purposes of Mountain View Power assignment from Olds Fiber Limited to the town of Olds.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wilson. Does council have any further comments or questions? We'll start with Council Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, through you to Director Lindeman. I just want to be clear, just to make sure clear in my mind. So this was a $15 million promissory note, correct? And that we're just basically reducing it to 14.8.
Correct.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Ryan. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, then, we have a motion on the floor from Deputy Mayor Wilson. I will now call the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. And may I have a second motion? Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council directs administration to increase the principal amount outstanding on the Olds Fiber Limited promissory note by $56,764 for the final restructuring costs of the municipally controlled corporation of Olds Fiber Limited.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I will again open the floor if there's any comments or questions. Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and not so much a question pertaining directly to the motion, but just a question for Director Linderman. Do you have at your fingertips now what the total restructuring cost is with this $56,000 additional? And if you don't, that's fine. You can bring that back at a later time.
Yeah, I'd have to bring that back.
Okay, thanks.
I appreciate your question, and Director Lindeman will certainly do that. Any further? Councillor Ryan.
Well, I guess I thank you very much, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Director Lindeman. I just want to make sure that we're clear then, and for people who are listening in as well, we've just taken 200,000 off, and now we're adding 56 to cover this additional cost. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great, thank you.
I believe that is on the floor as in the motion at this time. No further comments? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Council. Page 56 of your agenda now is Policy 101C, Policy Development, and who will be speaking to this? C.O. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I will speak to this one, and Legislative Clerk McKinnon also helped draft it, so she can fill in if needed. This Policy 101C is actually, in addition, part of the organizational review recommendations, recommendation number 8 specifically, which speaks to council ensuring policies are reviewed on an electoral term. So this policy does tackle that with a bit of adjustment, given the amount of policies we have and incoming policies which will add to the total. This policy seeks to propose to council that administration will report on all policies in a 4-year period, and bringing those that require amendment in administration's opinion forward to council for approval. The ones that are reviewed but not recommended for approval will be provided to council just in list format. And of course, the council has the ability by resolution to request a specific policy to come forward for council review at any time. We felt that this is a bit more of an efficient approach, as I believe we approach 55 policies right now with a handful of others on the books. Outside of that, It's mainly just housekeeping items between the previous policy and the updated policy, and as well the procedure is updated as well to speak largely to that review mechanism now. I will stop there and just ask Marcy if she had anything to add to that, or was that the highlight of the day? Okay.
Very much. Legislative Clerk and CEO Williams, I'll ask council if you have any questions at this point. Okay, we'll start with Councillor Ryan and then Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Would you prefer a motion to be on the table first?
So I would prefer that.
I move the council approve Town of Olds Policy 101C, Policy Development as presented, and I do have a question.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Blatz for a question. Did you have a question, or? Okay, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor Dahl. Through you to CEO Williams. When you mentioned the list, so just to be clear, if there was a policy that was on the list that that administration said it was good and perhaps council thinks might need to be reviewed, we can bring that off the list and have it reviewed?
That's correct, yeah. If council disagrees or wants further look at a particular policy that's on that administration recommendation to leave alone, it would probably act similar to a notice of motion that for a future meeting it be brought forward for council review.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes, we have that right to use the notice of motion for administration. And Councillor Blatz?
And thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to CEO Williams and to our legislative clerk. I just wanted to thank the CEO Williams and our administration staff for bringing this new policy forward. And my only concern had been making sure that even though we may not review every policy by council, we would at least have the list. And because my concern was, what if something falls through the crack and all of a sudden we discover we've got a policy that hasn't been reviewed since 2010, and that can always have an impact eventually down the road on some decision-making factor. So I was glad for that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Good. We have a motion on the floor, please, from Councillor Ryan. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And now, page 74. Item 8A is our reports from council boards, commissions, and committees. I'm just going to give you a second here. Very good. I would like to get a motion on the floor so we could move forward with questions and our reports. Who would like to put that on? Oh, Councillor Daly, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the reports from council authorities, boards, committees, and commissions ending February 27th, 2023 be received for information.
Very good. Before we go to council reports, does councillors have any questions with regards to the content of what you've received in the package? We'll start with Councillor Blatz and then Councillor Ryan. Did you have your hand up? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. My only comment was it appears that there's an awful lot of boards and committees here that we're not getting regular updated reports for, and I thought it was through our terms of reference with each committee or board or commission that we sat on that they would be bringing back a monthly report if they could be. And I noted that there's several on here we have not heard from for a long time. And I think that it should be noted that we should, if you're sitting on a board, you have not received or brought forward a report to council, the reports that you can, such as approved minutes and such, should be included in this section of our agendas.
That's what we said. Did you have your hand up, Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dahl. I wanted to speak to or ask a question with regards to Councillor Wilson's report with regards to the Parkland Regional Library, if that's possible.
You have a question? That's very good. Move forward.
Thank you, and I appreciate receiving the written report. Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson. I was just wondering, after reading that and seeing that the motion that we had put forward with regards to using the population figures and having them changed in the master agreement. That was defeated very closely, by the way, 17 to 21. I'm just wondering, is there anywhere to go from here? What would be our next step, and what's your feeling about how the board handled this particular item?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Ryan. I'll speak, try and be brief on this and pass along some of the events from the board meeting, which was last week. It was an interesting discussion around the motion and aligning the population figures for used for requisitions and those used for grants. My observations, comments were there were a couple of very passionate, strong arguments against making the change to the clause, the agreement, at least at this point, partly driven by the fact that with the upcoming election, provincial election in the next couple of months, and it was felt that it'd be best to hold tight and reopen this item perhaps in the fall once we find out what happens with funding from the provincial government to the various libraries and the library board. It was also recognized that given that this motion's been defeated, it must lay dormant, for lack of a better word, for the next 6 months anyway. So that takes you well into the fall before anything can be revised, which coincides with the timing of the release of the parkland budget, which is in that September-October timeframe. So it will be interesting to see how that goes. The other interesting piece was the chair of the board basically retracted the letter that was written in support of the alignment of the population numbers. So again, you had a couple of opposing forces or those speaking in opposition, very strong arguments, and we ended up with a very close vote defeating the motion. But it will come forward, from what I understand, towards the fall once the 6-month window lapses.
Good question, thank you. All right, we're going to move forward. I'm going to start just with regards to Councillor Blatt's question, and I might be able to give some clarity to my report as well. I'll start with standing meetings. We had regular council meetings, 2 meetings with council altogether. January 26th, the municipal area partnerships. I want to say that the approved minutes will be in the next report because they are not approved to date, but I will give you highlights from that meeting. The presentation, we received a presentation from Mountain View Seniors Housing Board. Discussion included housing versus care, seniors staying in their homes longer, senior housing needs assessment, possible demand study was brought up, debt reduction and how we can lobby the government of Alberta to help with the capital debt. The presentation was done very well, and thank you very much. It was very thorough and very clear to all members. And I'm speaking to Councillor Ryan, who sits on the board there. The terms of reference review will come back to all councils for acceptance. The new chair for Municipal Area Partnerships will now be the Town of Sundre Mayor Richard Warnock. I believe we will be having a meeting on 2 months from now. March, yes. And as far as the only other one here for mayors of South Central Alberta, we haven't had any meetings in 23 yet, and I will assure you that when we do, we're having one in March, and they're not official minutes. We kind of just speak as notes, but there will be something. They typically do type something up, so we'll get those in. We had February 6th, Council Policy and Priorities. February 8th, the Governance Committee met to review ONET public at large applications. Now the interview process has begun. We had CAO Council Conversations. February 22nd, just last week, I only am bringing a brief note to this because there was a call for mayors in Reeves, South Central Alberta, which is just a group that we just talk and there's no minute taken at the mayors and Reeves meeting. But I will share with you the summary of the presentation was given by Dr. Kim Jim from the Red Deer Hospital. When the Red Deer Hospital project build fell off the capital funding list to be replaced by the new hospital in Edmonton, the SHECA move started. Now, SHECA is the Society for Hospital Expansion in Central Alberta. Some of you might have received a letter. I don't know if it was unanimous to everyone. The mayor of Red Deer was trying to get everyone together, hence why this meeting happened on February 22nd. So the Red Deer concerns are that the design phase for the project will get deferred in the next few years due to lack of political will. There was a lot of discussion by Dr. Kim Jim of the Red Deer Hospital and from the floor. Meanwhile, it was noted that the Red Deer Hospital lost 25 trained specialists, and they've left the Red Deer Hospital just within the last 3 years due to retirement and/or move to big cities. It is critical to move the capital build and transition plan along with political support for Central Alberta. So again, there were solutions put on the floor, and the mayor of Red Deer is going to continue to lobby this the best he can. The solutions were put on the table with the closing comment that from Dr. Kim that hospitals need a level playing field. They are the third largest hospital outside of Calgary and Edmonton, and they are going to continue to advocate to get the transition period moving. There was the money of $1.8 billion allocated that is sitting there and not, they're not able to use it at this point. It's in transition is where it is today. So I believe there'll be further information coming, and when it comes, I definitely will forward it to everyone so that we can all be in the same loop. He does have a slide show that he said that he would give of a couple of slides with the actual amounts that the hospitals have on a graph that as soon as I get, I can fan out to council. It'll help explain a little bit about Central Alberta has this much, south, north, and then the cities. So when I get that information, I certainly will share it. As far as highlights go, January 24th, Alberta Health Services Central Alberta Zone Dialogue with all council members. February 4th, I did bring greetings and welcome the Imperial Order Daughters of the Empire IOD, that's what it stands for, district, recipients that received the Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Medals. February 9th, we all attended the New to You recognition greetings and celebration with council members. And then on the 18th, greetings at the Farmers and Farmerettes Bonspiel closing ceremony. And now I would like to go round table to whoever would like to start. Thank you, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. My report was included in the agenda items, so I have nothing further to add to that.
Okay, that's fair. One thing about this new process that we're talking about at this table is that if we do just have them in the package and you have a highlight you'd like to note, there are viewers and they might want to hear something extra that you might want to highlight. Okay, thank you. Well, then we'll start with, we got your report as well, but go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. I did attend the Citizens on Patrol's annual general meeting, and it was very quick to observe that the membership of this organization is dropping off. I believe on the books they have 12 members presently, and according to their bylaws and so forth, we did not have enough membership that attended the AGM to actually continue on with the AGM. And so at that time there was a discussion that was had with the people that were in the audience and the members that were there. And it was decided that the Citizens on Patrol would be put on hiatus for right now. And there was a committee that was struck for recruitment and awareness of Citizens on Patrol. And so we have postponed all operations until the fall of 2023, where we'll get back together again and determine whether there is enough critical mass there to continue on with a Citizens on Patrol in Olds or not. And so just an update on everybody on that. As well, I attended, as Mayor Dahl indicated, the AHS, the priority setting sessions, the New to You Volunteer Appreciation Dinner, and I'm also involved in the EOP Finance course that's taking place right now in the evenings as well online. So I've completed 2 sessions of that out of the 4. And then I've also attended regular council meetings, policies and procedures, CAO council meetings, and the OFL board meetings, as well as the OFL governance as well. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I don't have a report in the agenda, other than those meetings where we all attend and events we've all attended. I'm part of only 2 committees or commissions. That's the Mountain View Regional Waste Commission and the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group, and due to some scheduling conflicts, I was unable to attend both of the last 2 meetings. And I'm waiting on the minutes of those 2 meetings to provide them to council. So I'm not too sure what happened at those meetings yet. But as soon as I get that information, I'll pass it on to everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I have a written report in the agenda package, and you already spoke to MAP with regards to Mountain View Seniors Housing. I do have only 2 committees, so I reported on those. Just to let everybody know that under the reports page that we do get, the Mountain View Seniors Housing doesn't provide minutes, so we provide key messages. So it could be highlighted under here, just for the legislative clerk to go forward. They are included. We've always said that our minutes are online on the website, so we don't send them out. But the key messages, I think, are actually better, because it actually gives a better overview of what we're doing without having to go through all the motions and everything that are made. So I guess I just want to highlight, one thing I would like to highlight in particular is the fact that we met with the province, both myself, our CAO, and yeah, it was just, I think, the 2 of us, to discuss the proceeds of the Foothills Hospital, the Foothills Lodge, and this was sold by the province. We are going to get those funds, about $450,000. The amount of money was originally just earmarked for Government of Alberta owned facilities that we managed for them, but we were able to get the okay from the province to use some of the funds on capital projects for Mountain View Seniors Housing owned facilities as well, which is really great because it frees up some capital dollars for our own facilities. And these, of course, would be capital projects that would have to still be approved by the government, but it does still allow us to have that funding freed up. And we also got the okay to do that as well with the community housing sale of proceeds that we get from any of this community housing that we sell. So that's a really good feather in our cap, really. Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. And Deputy Mayor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and I just had one item I wanted to highlight, and one question, if I may, direct to Councillor Ryan regarding the Mountain View Senior Housing. And I also have my 2 reports within the package, in addition to the very brief, concise Parkland Board report and the Olds and District Chamber of Commerce package as well. The one item I wanted to highlight from the Olds and District Chamber of Commerce is their AGM, scheduled for March 8th at the Legion. And tickets are required, and there is a member and a non-member price. So I just, again, wanted to highlight March 8th, Olds and District Chamber of Commerce AGM meeting. And if I may, the question to Councillor Ryan, and if our legislative clerk could go to page 272, I think, which is the key messages from Mountain View Senior Housing. Item number 5, I'm just curious, when it talks about the Government of Alberta directed a $20 increase in disposal income benefits from $322 to $343. The line that caught my attention is, will have a cost impact on the municipal requisitions. Any clarification, comment? Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much for
Order.
that. Sorry.
That's correspondence we're coming up to. Can we deal with that when we get to that correspondence, please? Okay, no problems, thank you. Is there anything further that anybody would like to discuss? We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Daly at this time. I will then call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Very good. We'll move to the CAO report, and then we'll go to correspondence and information.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I only had one item, just to bring to council's attention in case you have been getting calls or hearing comments about it. In the 2023 operating budget, council approved a reduction equivalent to $80,000 for the Olds Aquatic Center service level. That was due to take place in Q2 of 2023, but due to ongoing staffing shortages, which in the lifeguard trade is now a Canada-wide problem due to the lack of training during COVID, we had to accelerate that reduction in service level and then also triage some key holiday dates that were just not staffable to a reasonable level. As you might know, the number of patrons allowed in the pool is not based on the size of the pool, but not only based on the size of the pool, based on the amount of lifeguards you have on duty at that time. And given that we have lifeguard shortages, we are faced with the decision to either open for a severely limited, reduced number of pool occupants or to close the facility for early or for that date. Family Day was a example recently where we just did not have enough staff to justify opening it. And then also with the reduced schedule that is now advertised from January until April 6th, where we had to reduce several evening classes as well operating hours in the mornings. The rationale and how we chose which courses to reduce was both based on attendance and also on a demographic of users. So we wanted to make sure that, for instance, there was still a suitable number of youth, senior, school, college, special needs activities without impairing one over the other. So it was based on key usage, which obviously family public swims are by far our highest use, highest even revenue driver. Whereas the ones that were reduced tend to have under 10 participants. But it's not to lessen the importance that those programming hours have to the people who attend. It's more of making the best of an unfortunate situation. So that is the only item in my report. It's just more for council information in case you have been hearing those comments outside of council chambers. Happy to take questions on that, though.
Thank you for sharing that. I know I have heard comments that Didsbury is experiencing quite a bit the same thing. I just heard that actually more comments from their situation than ours. I'm sure our council has heard a lot, though. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to CEO Williams, and I appreciate that your comments, particularly on Family Day, because I've had several calls regarding that, and it's unfortunate that we weren't able to even have a public swim from 1 to 4 and able to staff it, because it seemed this year, for some reason, that there was an awful lot of people who wanted to be able to utilize the pool on that particular day. So on that staffing note, is there anything that we can do to encourage people to start taking training or encourage them to start getting their lifeguard courses? I know way back when you had to have your bronze medallion, and then you took your Canadian life-saving course, and then you took your national lifeguard course, and you were you were able to lifeguard. I know that the regulations have changed significantly, and now we've gone from Canadian lifeguards to a different type of a programming. I can't recall it anyway off the top of my head. But going back to my original point, is there not something we can do to offer particularly high school type students or college students to take those courses that would be able to help us staff during some of these key times? You know, that might be an ideal job for high school or college students, to be able to be a lifeguard.
Yeah, good question. And our lifeguard job competition is perpetually open on our website, and we do advertise it fairly regularly in print and social media. On top of that, our training to people interested would be offered complimentary as well. I think the issue is there's just not that much appetite for the job, and the students that we do have are fantastic, but obviously students are the primary applicants, and they can only work a certain number of hours as well, and then there's the inevitable triaging that not every student wants to work till close, 10:30 at night. A lot of them have, families that they still travel with, and that was a key concern over Christmas and Family Day when we had to close Family Day was only the holiday Monday. It was open Saturday, Sunday, but Christmas had to extend a week closure because of that reason. So, long story short, to answer your question, I don't have a great answer on what we could do outside of what we're doing already, but it's something that a lot of facilities are facing, and we're hoping to find someone that has found a good balance. For instance, we originally thought that perhaps sharing closure hours with Didsbury, for example, may work, that they close day X time, but we're finding that the availability of the current staff are all the same. So trying to close on, a Sunday afternoon early, that's also when Didsbury can't find staff, for example. So I'm not sure if that's the solution either, but we are investigating it. It's just something that everyone seems to be facing right now.
Thank you. There's no further report from you today then? I'd ask for a motion then to receive for information. Councillor Blatz?
I move that the verbal CEO report be accepted for information.
I'd call for the vote then. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, CEO Williams. We have no financial, so we will now go to page 271, which is correspondence and information. A motion on the floor, and then we can speak to. Councillor Ryan?
Yes, I move that the correspondence and information report ending February 27, 2023 be received for information.
Thank you, and I believe I did see your key messages up on the page here. It's a nice round table when you do those key messages because everybody gets an opportunity. It's fresh in your mind. You just had your meeting, and this is good information. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wilson, would you like to ask your question now?
Yes, thank you, Deputy. Thank you, Mayor Dahl. See if I can remember my question. It was just $20. Yeah, it was just related to the bullet number 5, I believe, on the key messages report and the increase in the government of Alberta funding for the income benefit. And I'm just wondering, it references item number 5, an impact potentially to municipal requisitions. So I'm just wondering if there's any further information on what that looks like and the impact on those requisitions, which we know have gone up some 15% and are, I think, over $500,000 as they are right now. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Ryan, if you choose to be able to answer that question for him.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and certainly I can answer that question. So, yes, this has happened previously already. The Government of Alberta decides to increase the disposable income benefit for low-income seniors and not cover it. So they did it before. I believe it was just about a year or two ago. It was only a minor thing. I think it only cost Mountain View Seniors Housing about $7. They were actually the government actually covered a portion of it. But this time they covered none of it. So they've asked us to pay out $343 per month. So there's basically $20. It's not being covered because it would go from 322. The funny thing is that we have to pay it, and they give us no money to do it, so it ends up costing, of course, Mountain View Seniors Housing that X amount of dollars, and the only way to raise the capital to cover it is through acquisition. So it will have an impact. I believe this actually just has already started. And we already had passed our budget, so we're going to have to do a budget adjustment probably at the next meeting to go forward. we might be able to find the increase, because I don't know exactly what the total is, Councillor Wilson, but we might be able to find that within the budget. I don't know at this point, and I have not talked to our controller.
Thank you very much for sharing that information. Are there any other comments with regards to correspondence and information? Go ahead, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl, and I actually do have one for Councillor Wilson, and that is on the correspondence from the Chamber of Commerce. It does talk about the AGM. It doesn't talk, I don't see anywhere where it says the time for that meeting. It says March 8th, but I don't see a time, so I'm wondering if there was a time involved.
Starts at noon, does it not?
Yeah, I believe that, yes, I believe the doors will open at 11:30 on March 8th at the Legion. Tickets are available for a member and a non-member fee, and I believe it's set to conclude at about 1 o'clock. And from what I understand, there are going to be some very distinguished speakers at the Chamber AGM, so look forward to that.
You one speaker and one introduction person. Our very own CAO Williams. Very good. We do have a motion on the floor. Are there any further comments, questions? Seeing none, Councillor Ryan has a motion on the floor. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Before we go, I'd like to wish our legislative clerk a very happy vacation. And we'll see you in a week. Take care. Motion to adjourn, please, at 2:09 p.m. Councillor Daly, those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.